Hello, welcome back. There is no foldable this time, but we should go back to this foldable at the very beginning of this unit because we are going to fill out that last important rule. So that last important rule is if you multiply or divide by a negative number to move the coefficient, okay, you're going to flip your inequality. All right? So I'm going to write that again because it's so important. So we are not going to use a foldable. It's just notebook paper. So on your next page, whatever page I have it dedicated for, you are going to write the only difference is when you multiply or divide by a negative number on both sides. You're going to flip the inequality. This is typically your last step. All right, so first problem. K over negative 10 is less than or equal to 9. So first, I'm going to draw that balance bar that we know and love. Here's my variable. So this negative 10 is a coefficient. It's the only thing over here, so I'm going to multiply that on both sides. So I'm going to multiply by negative 10 on the right and on the left. These guys cancel out on the left. You are left with just that K. 9 times negative 10 gives me a negative 90. But here, because we multiply or divided, we ended up multiplying by a negative on both sides, we're going to flip our sign. So I'm going to do this in red. So my mouth is now going to face the other way, still going to have that half equal sign. That half equal sign is not going anywhere. And now what we're going to do is we are going to graph it, which we practiced earlier. So when I graph this, negative 90, this is saying that our variable is bigger and we're going to have a closed dot. So we're going to shade to the right. Okay, make sure your dot is a closed dot, or if it kind of looks open, I'm going to mark it wrong. If it kind of looks like you're not sure and you just kind of do a weird openy closed dot, I'm going to mark it wrong. Next one, as always, balance bar. Negative 1 plus 5k is greater than negative 66. So with my variable, I have a constant and a coefficient. I'm going to move the constant first. So I'm going to add that 1 on both sides. Bring down that 5k. It doesn't go anywhere. I added 1. I did not do any multiplying or dividing by a negative, so my inequality stays the same. Negative 66 plus 1, negative 65. Then I divide by 5 on both sides because it's a coefficient. This leaves me with k is greater than negative 13. My inequality does not flip because we divided by a positive number. It only works if you divide by a negative number. All right, but I'm going to graph it. So negative 13. I have k being bigger, so I'm going to have an open dot and shading in the bigger side of that number line. First things first, as always, we are going to draw our balance bar. All right, we don't have any parentheses. We do have combining like terms, so let's do that. Negative 4 and a negative 1b gives me a negative 5b. Nobody else had a like term, so everybody else drops down, staying how they are. Now I'm left with a two-step equation here. This is the line we are now looking at, and I am going to subtract away that 8 because it is a constant. And just because I'm subtracting it does not mean that I'm going to flip my sign. My sign remains the same. It does not change if I subtract. However, I am going to have to divide by a negative 5 on both sides, and that's my very last step. So because I'm dividing by that negative 5 on both sides, that is where we're going to have some sign flippage. So the sign will flip its location. And there we go. We are left with 3 is greater than b. So I'm going to do my number line and graph. All right, so we are going to have an open dot at 3, but this b is smaller, which means that we're going to shade to the left. Equal sign bar. All right, so parentheses, check. Got to deal with them. So we're going to multiply this -4 times -6, which gives me a positive 24. A -4 times a -5n gives me a positive 20m. Nothing else is in that parentheses, so everybody drops down. The inequality is not going to change because I did not multiply that -4 on both sides. I did not multiply this -4 on both sides, so I will not be flipping my sign. Next up, we are left with the two-step, which we know how to do. I'm going to get rid of that constant of 24 by subtracting it on both sides. Will I be flipping my sign? Heck no. Subtracting does nothing. It is only when you multiply or divide, y'all. Only when you multiply or divide. And it's usually your last step. All right, here we go. This gives me -40 is less than 20m. Divide away that 20 on both sides. This leaves us with -2. Inequality stays the same, m. When I graph my inequality, -2, I am going to have an open dot because we have just the mouth. And this m is bigger, so we're going to shade to the right. All right, so that's how you handle inequalities. Pretty much exactly the same as solving. You just got to be careful of either if you multiply or divide by that negative at the very end on both sides, getting rid of that coefficient. Have a wonderful day, y'all.